great pride and joy that we have journeyed here today to join our brothers of the Kingdom of Buganda in celebrating the silver jubilee of the coronation of my dear brother, His Majesty the Kabaka of Buganda. My brother the Kabaka has twice visited us in Kumasi, and I feel especially privileged to be invited to be the guest of honor at this grand commemoration of his coronation. I am grateful for the honor which underscores the special bonds established between our two kingdoms during our reign, and I bring with me the felicitations and prayers of our people to our illustrious king, the royal family, and to all the people of Buganda. Indeed, Your Majesty, our visit is of the greatest significance to us because today's celebration has a deeper meaning than just the commemoration of your illustrious reign. To us, it is the celebration of the triumph of the African spirit, the enduring, unconquerable ethos of our common heritage, and our capacity to adapt to the dynamics of modernity. Years ago, a brave and visionary leader of one clan in these parts, aided by his spiritual mentor, assembled the chiefs of 21 kindred clans to deliberate on their future. The Omelu Bala gave Kintu one stick to break, which he did without much effort. He then handed him a bundle of 9 sticks, and nothing he could do would break the bundle. It was a sage's lesson to the clan chiefs that each of them could be broken, but as a united force, they were unbreakable. Thus was born the Kingdom of Buganda under the great warrior King Kabaka Kintu. And today, we mark the 25th year of the reign of the 36th Kabaka. Across the continent to the west, another visionary leader, aided by a spiritual mentor, assembled the chiefs of kindred states. They too were persuaded that as individual states, they were vulnerable, but as a united group, they were unconquerable. All the chiefs freely bound themselves to an undying union, and the sage, Okomfo-Anokye, conjured a golden stool to serve as the symbolic soul of a new kingdom that was born, the Kingdom of Asante, under the warrior king, King Osei Tutu, my great-great-uncle. Your Majesty, it is not only in our spiritual incarnation that our two kingdoms share a unique story. King Prempeh, my uncle, was exiled in an effort to break the spirit of our people. You too have endured the harrowing experience of exile, and indeed, it was from years spent in exile that our prince returned 25 years ago to claim his throne. Finally and significantly, Buganda became a part of the British Protectorate of Uganda at the beginning of the 20th century, about the same time as the Asante Kingdom, with our king exiled to the Seychelles Island, was obliged to become part of the colonial territory of the Gold Coast. Your Majesty, through all the oscillating tide of history, whether on the battlefields or confronted by political machinations, the spirit of our people remained unbroken, their loyalty unshaken, and our heritage preserved and protected by their iron will. In celebrating the unconquerable spirit of our forefathers, we equally honor the glorious spirit of reconciliation and commitment to peace and development by succeeding monarchs in the modern era. After 25 years in exile, King Prempeh I returned to Kumasi with a message of peace and reconciliation. And we have remained as steadfast in our pursuit of peace as we have been in our effort to uplift the living standards of our people. So, we note with admiration your commitment, Your Majesty, to the same path of peace and harmony in Uganda. So, in a world torn apart by bigotry and a refusal to let go of historic grievances, we should be proud to be examples of the capacity of the human spirit to rise above the pains of the past and foster our common brotherhood with common aspirations for all. So, with the benefit of hindsight, I am sure most Africans must regret that the post-colonial settlements were marred by mistrust between the rising political class and our traditional rulers. This mistrust gave birth to the notion that African tradition and governance were the antithesis of democracy and thus an obstacle to development and modernity. So, for this reason, we missed the opportunity to build upon the secure foundations of time-honored traditional governments and to utilize in the appropriate manner the enormous wisdom and statecraft of our traditional leaders. So, indeed, the lure of the ballot box with its magical one-man, one-vote so blinded us that we threw overboard institutions that could have better sustained our newly independent states, albeit with the considered modifications. So, we have paid a heavy price for ignoring the lesson of history, that from the beginning of time, the great nations that have shaped the world in Europe, Asia, and the Americas have been those with a heritage of clear values and traditions, stretching over centuries, even millennia. When we applaud the economic miracles of Asia, from Japan, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia to China, we see all too clearly the strong underpinnings of tradition and cultural values in everything that they have achieved. Their past, I will contend, is the springboard from which they have propelled themselves to the heights of the modern era. That should tell us that if you slash a people away from their past, you cast them rudderless on stormy seas, and you should not be surprised if they are gobbled up by some alien tide. So, fortunately here, as to some extent in Ghana, the value of traditional governance has not been entirely lost. The careful attempt at blending elements of traditional governance in the governance of the nation state have been important factors in fostering the unity of the state, the preservation of peace, and the development of the national economy. So, it is right in this regard that we pay tribute to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, who 25 years ago took the bold step to restore the Kabaka to his people after a sad period of exile. So, we applaud the collaboration between the Kingdom and the State of Uganda and pray you overcome all obstacles in pursuing the goal of development and prosperity for the Kingdom and all of Uganda. So, in the same vein, I think it is appropriate to look beyond our kingdoms across the length and breadth of Africa and to ask whether we are making the most of our traditional institutions and leadership in the governance of our nations. The case for a more positive role for traditional leaders in the economic and social development agenda of our nations is beyond controversy. So, there is no African country with less than 80% of its citizens living in the rural areas where the strongest ties are to their culture and tradition. It should be obvious, therefore, that our traditional leaders are the natural channels for the mobilization, guidance, and support of the majority of our people for economic development where it really matters. So, We need, therefore, to expand the space for collaboration between the past and the present, and to make our traditions count not only in music and dance, but in the pockets of the people. Towards this end, traditional rulers across the continent must face some stark challenges. The first challenge is to dispel the notion that ethnic loyalties promote conflicts and undermine unity and stability. We should do away with all negative harmony across the continent. The second challenge is to redirect the unbreakable spirit of our people towards the new battle for economic development. In centuries past, the challenges of our forefathers faced obliged them to wage wars to defend and protect their integrity and identity. Today, there's no such obligation, and there are no human enemy to fight. Regardless of language differences, we are all one people, sharing the same values and aspirations. The only enemies we all have to fight are poverty, ignorance, and disease. And the only weapons we need to fight these enemies are education, education, and education. It is only by providing education for all our citizens and expanding the quality of education so that the benefits of science and technology are freely available to them that we shall conquer poverty, eliminate ignorance, and make healthcare available to all. That is the challenge we all face, and the goal we should pursue, and ethnic rivalries should have no place in the process. Your Majesty, however awesome the challenges we face, there should be no doubt about our destiny. Africa is no longer perceived as a colonial backwater, but a serious space for serious investment. Our leaders are exhibiting a new sense of realism, and we see the emergence of a new breed of entrepreneurs determined to drive the development agenda. Together, we should make history walk the talk and make Africa not the talking shop, but the market for doers and builders. Your Majesty and brother, your life and reign should inspire the new leadership of Africa. It has been a tale of courage, vision, and unbending commitment to the well-being of your people. Your achievements are legend, and it is no wonder that the adoration and loyalty of your people know no bounds. We applaud you, Your Majesty, and pray that by the grace of God, we shall be back here 25 years from now to celebrate even greater achievements for the people of Uganda under your wise leadership. Thank you.